Okay, recording this video on Tuesday, the 26th November 2019. It is kind of beautiful morning here in France, in Biarritz. We've had some really bad weather the last 2 or 3 weeks, so it's nice to see a little bit of sunshine. And we've actually got some waves today, so going to be going out in the water shortly. But I thought I'd talk about the British pound chart because it's kind of interesting. We've had a little bit of a rally over the last month and a half, all based on kind of Brexit news, Conservative Party news, and the general election that's going to be happening in a couple of weeks' time. So I thought I'd kind of revisit that. But before getting to that, just to show you, this is kind of my usual chart setup. The daily chart, this is at BP, which is the continuous contract to the British pound. The little D in brackets afterwards just means the data is delayed. I don't real-time trade the British pound, so I don't need the real-time data from TradeStation, so I just work with the delayed data. I'm just looking at end-of-day type stuff. So we've got the two charts side by side. The first chart over here on the right-hand side is all price-based, and it's all based on beta sine wave. So there's beta sine wave below the price bars. It shows me the cycles for the highest time frame in super bold here, and the intermediate time frame, kind of less bold. And I don't have the lowest time frame on here because that just gets a little bit too messy to see, and I'm mostly concerned with those two time frames. And then based on that activity, the cyclical activity, it plots support and resistance lines dynamically on the price bars themselves. And then it calculates the trend, white bars for downtrend, red bars for uptrends based on breaks of those support and resistance lines. So we'll come back to that in a second. On the left-hand chart here, this is everything kind of based on volume and average trade size. So below the price bars, we've got volume momentum signals that are coming from better momentum, and I kind of plot those on the price bars as well. And then we've got the professional and amateur activity that's picked up via large average trade size and small average trade size. So blue bars are professionals, yellow bars are amateurs. And then we've got this kind of combo trend indicator, which is grey background on both charts. It's a combination of beta sine wave and beta pro-am to calculate uptrends and downtrends. So you'll see we've had a nice little rally for, when was this date? Let's see, low kind of down here about the 9th of October, where we had a low in the pound being made, and we kind of shot away here into an uptrend. So we got beta sine wave is saying it's strong coming in here. We've got beta pro-am saying, you know, we bust above some blue professional bars here, and therefore we're technically in an uptrend. Definitely strength going on right now, but I don't think this is the real story kind of at the moment. What we've had with these blue professional bars is a whole series from kind of 24 to 30 of blue professional bars. And when we get that, that's a big range where the professionals, yep, were definitely active kind of at the bottom of that range, getting in and buying, but they're also active at the high of that range, getting out and selling, because it was a bit of a gift over the course of a week's trade. Pound went from 23, 24 up to 30, which is a huge move to have. So they've taken advantage of that, and what it means is we're going to test that whole range. We're going to test. We've tested into 30 a couple of days ago. We kind of reached here. It was cyclical resistance on beta sine wave, bearish divergence pattern come in here. Amateur up bars into that testing move, so that shows that was kind of weak. And that's the testing into the top of the range. What we should do now is test back down into the bottom of the range, so into the 124s, 125, kind of down here, while we've got this kind of cyclical sweep kind of coming down. And it would tie in nicely with some uncertainty coming into the general election in the UK. So at the moment, the numbers are showing that the Conservative Party, kind of pro-Brexit party, get it done, as Boris Johnson says, is well ahead. I've seen numbers up as high as a 77% chance of the Conservative winning pretty much a landslide general election. But with these things, you never know. That was, we've seen kind of poor results or opposite results based on election polling numbers before that have gone kind of drastically other way. I think what we're just going to see in the next few weeks as we come up to that general election, which is kind of early part of December, is just some uncertainty. Maybe the Labour Party, maybe the Lib Dems will kind of come back. The polling might start to weaken in terms of the Conservative advantage, and this will kind of come back. And it could tie up with some cyclical resistance here on the highest time frame, you can see this is kind of, these lines are getting close. And when they kind of come together, that might mean that the next leg down is going to be a weak leg, and we'll kind of test back into this region. So although everybody seems very confident right now that the Conservatives will win, they're kind of pro-business, pro-stock markets, pro-lower taxes, pro getting Brexit done, and some kind of clarity in terms of the business situation going forward. Don't be surprised if the pound actually kind of sells off and tests into this 124. I mean, I think long term, pound, yes, I'm pretty bullish on the UK versus Europe, certainly, and that they'll get their act together in the longer term, but for the time being, it could be just more kind of panic and uncertainty. This, just looking at a long-term chart, this was the Brexit vote here, and when the vote kind of came out, the pound sold down dramatically. Then we had a rise back into that area, those blue professional bars, and then with this move here, we've not really seen professional activity right at the lows with exhaustion selling and bullish divergence. So they haven't kind of come in here. They came in here looking for that play going on. So don't get too cocky or confident in the British pound that the rally is on its way. I think we're going to test back into the lows here. Anyway, so that's the story as I see it on the British pound. We'll see what happens with that in the next few days. One of the other charts I'm looking at for a setup is Bitcoin, because we come back into 664 or something like that. We kind of came down to, it was yeah, kind of 6.5 kind of down here. For Bitcoin, I'm using a really long time frame chart here. It's a 5,000 tip bar chart, but I do like my tip bars, so that's kind of handy. It just shows you what kind of went on. This was a few months ago where we had, I think it was news out of China that basically said Bitcoin was the future, and China was going to be very pro-Bitcoin and blockchain particularly, and that's why we kind of took off. Well, you see, we kind of took off after exhaustion sell. Blue professional bars come in, and then they dump it up here at 10.5, and then we've come all the way back down and actually tested into the lows of that, and that's when the blue professional bars have come back in here and down at 7,000, some more kind of up here. But we've not broken any resistance lines on the lowest or intermediate time frames. So we're still in a downtrend, kind of on the indicators with better pro-am, better sine wave, and the combo kind of indicators. So it's still kind of weak, but because they've come in at those lows, we've got our exhaustion sell, bullish divergence. This is a testing period that we're getting ready to test this kind of 7,000 or whatever kind of level here. So I'll be looking for signs that 7,000 type level is going to hold, and then kind of jump in, take a little bit more. I'm pretty heavily invested into Bitcoin as of positions taken years ago, and so that would be a nice little kind of extra to grab because it's so sold off. And then lastly, just say coffee. The coffee trade's going quite nicely. We talked about this, I think it was the 1st of November, when coffee was sitting at about 102. Here we talked about that setup. Yeah, kind of back here. And it's taken off nicely from there. We're up at 18, kind of 19 on the coffee trade. So that's a nice little winner, because we got everything kind of working for us. The combo trend kind of went off the other day, kind of gave us confirmed uptrend because we're above resistances on better sine wave, and we're above support on better pro-am. So that's all kind of good. So we're running with supports in the background here. You can see on the highest time frame, this one here is kind of come in. So we'll see where that goes. Presumably we've got stops to run and so on about 22, 23, kind of above here. That'll be interesting. That could cause us a little bit of short covering rally and a little bit of a pop kind of further up. So the coffee trade's kind of going nicely. Anyway, there we go. Pound. Let's look at that. Keep watching that chart over the next couple of weeks and see how it plays out.